Okay, shalom, shalom. Test this. Okay, shalom. Come. Alright, shalom, all praises be unto Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Mechakundash. Double honor unto the elder apostles and the elder bishops at Great Millstone who are well. And who taught us his truth. Salutes unto the Archim who continue to push the word in truth and in sincerity, man. And this is just a quick, video I wanted to do. Wanted to do it last night, but didn't get around to doing it, and I fell asleep. So I'm just doing it now. Okay, but the Lord will smite Egypt again. All right, and the scriptures speak about the scripture being written for our learning, amongst many other things. Okay, and a large part of learning is understanding patterns. Okay, to truly learn and grasp a concept, you have to understand the pattern of the concept. Okay, if you can't identify and understand every single aspect of the pattern, you're not going to fully understand the concept. Okay, and the pattern in scripture is that the Lord will send his prophet or prophets to a particular place for a particular time and will prophesy against it. Okay, when an abundant warning has been fulfilled, then the Lord will rain all holy hell down on that place. But the Lord doesn't do that without first giving a warning. Okay, now scripture draws reference to the Mosiah Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai visiting Egypt again. Okay, so we got to first see what happened to Egypt the first time round. Okay, so this is actual ancient Egypt, Martezayim, which means the land of bitter bondage, right? And this is the book of Exodus chapter 7 verse 14, and it says, "Then the Lord Yahweh said unto Moses, Pharaoh's heart is hardened, he refuseth to let the people go. Get thee unto Pharaoh in the morning. Lo, he goeth out unto the water, and thou shalt stand by the river's bank against he come. And the rod which was turned to a serpent shalt thou take in thine hand, and thou shalt say unto him, The Lord Yahweh, the power of the Hebrews, have sent me unto thee, saying, Let my people go, that they may serve me in the wilderness. And, behold, hitherto thou wouldest not hear. Thus saith the Lord Yahweh, and this thou shalt know that I am the Lord, or I am the Lord Yahweh. Behold, I will smite with the rod that is in mine hand upon the waters, which are in the river, and they shall be turned to blood." So the Lord is telling Moses, he's giving him the game, man. What's going to happen, where Pharaoh's going to be. He's going to come to the water at this time in the morning. You're going to go out and meet him. And you're going to speak these words unto him. Okay. And ultimately, the river, because of his hardened heart, which, by the way, the Lord hardened his heart. It wasn't of Pharaoh's own doing. The Lord hardened his heart so that ultimately the power of the Father could be shown through him in wrath and destruction via his hand, via his servant, Marsha. Okay. So the river will turn to blood, and the fish that is in the river shall die, and the river shall stink. Okay, because if you ever go to like a fishmongery, you understand that fish has a very strong smell, man. And fish, they survive in the water. Okay, they don't survive in blood. Yeah, so when the water got turned to blood, the Lord, when Moses hit the water of the river with the staff, the Lord basically, performed, chemistry and changed the elements, which make up water, and changed it to blood. Okay. Now, blood, a large part of blood is water anyway, but there's other particles and elements and things of that nature Salakia separates the consistency and the nature on a chemical level from water to blood. So the Lord made that happen in the rivers when Moses hit it with the staff. Okay, so it wasn't conducive anymore for sea life, aka the fish, to be in there. So they all died. And if you've ever had fish, I remember when I was younger, we used to have fish in a fish tank in the house. When the fish dies, they float to the top. Okay, for some reason as a child, I always used to be scared of that. You know, it just freaked me out seeing the fish float to the top and just lay there. You know, but that's not a pretty sight, and more so than the sight, it's not a pretty smell. Okay, so the fish died, and the fish that is in the river shall die, and the river shall stink, and the Egyptians shall loathe to drink of the water of the river. So they're not gonna have anything to drink, man. Okay, and the Lord spake unto Moses, say unto Aaron, take thy rod and stretch out thine hand upon the waters of Egypt and upon their streams. Salakia. Upon their rivers and upon their ponds and upon all their pools of water, that they may become blood. Okay, so all water, you know, all aqua source was turned to blood, man. Okay, you know, that there may be blood throughout all the land of Egypt, both in vessels of wood and in vessels of stone. So let's say you caught some water earlier and it was in the house chilling in like a vessel, you know, a pot, because that's how it used to be in the ancient world. You know, you run outside, you see the rivers and the streams and the ponds are blood. Oh, it's cool, I got water in the house already. Yeah, go pour that bad boy out into a cup or a glass, and that was blood too. So every single water source, okay, was turned to blood, okay, except the source that was in Goshen. Okay, we'll get to that. Namely because that's where, well, not namely, the only reason why Goshen never got hit with the plagues is because Goshen was the land in Egypt where we as Israelite slaves at the time dwelt. Okay. And Moses and Aaron did so as the Lord Yahweh commanded, and he lifted up the rod and smote the waters that were in the river in the sight of Pharaoh and the sight of his servants, and all the waters that were in the river were turned to blood. And the fish that was in the river died, and the river stank, and the Egyptians could not drink of the water of the river, and there was blood throughout all the land of Egypt. And all the magicians of Egypt did so with their enchantments. Okay, and this is why Esau has a fixation. Okay, he has a fixation with Egypt, man. All right, you know, and they'll say, oh yeah, everyone was white and all of that stuff, but deeper than that, because were the Salakia, were the Egyptians black, as it were? Yeah, okay, but it's the spirit, because growing up that never impressed me. Just because they're so-called black didn't really mean anything as if it's our history, because it's not our history in terms of we built that in our own kingdom and empire. We built that in slavery for another set of people, okay, that happen to be melanated. But when you understand the scriptures, being melanated ain't nothing too deep, okay. It's more of a weird and outlandish thing to not be melanated, okay. So all these Egyptian architecture and stuff, it was built by us off of our technology that was brought into the land by the likes of our forefathers. Joseph, they learned from us, and then they turn around later, as the scripture says, a Pharaoh rose up who knew not Joseph, okay, and got intimidated by our intellect, our population, our reproduction, okay, and our strength, and said, look, man, we got to put these Israelites in slavery, okay. So our history is connected to Egypt, but not in terms of pioneering and rulership. It's very much connected in terms of slavery and oppression and bitter bondage, okay. That's why Esau has a found love for Egypt, because he'll try and whitewash it, or it was all white. That's the surface level. The reason why he's into Egypt is because of ancient witchcraft. And a lot of the witchcraft which is done today by Edomites goes back to ancient Egypt. Okay? You know, that's why they're the ones that set up that black, what's it called? Kemet. Pan-Africanism, all of that. You guys running around in the hood talking about Hotep and this and that. All them books, this and that, this book, that book. Yo, them books come from white people, the white man. Okay? Edomites, man. Okay? Because they were heavy into witchcraft, man. Okay? They were connected to Satan, and they were connected to higher powers on the left-hand side. And, you know, things of that nature, man. You know, and it wasn't no joke or game. You know, that shit actually worked. You know, they cast down serpents, as well as Moses cast down. They cast down 2 serpents, and Moses cast down 1. Okay, so it actually worked, the stuff they were doing, man. So, and the magicians of Egypt did so with the enchantments. You know, they did their ceremonies, their witchcraft, and it wasn't working out. And Pharaoh's heart was hardened, neither did he hearken unto them as the Lord said. And Pharaoh turned and went into his house, neither did he set his heart to this also. And all the Egyptians digged round about the rivers for water to drink, for they could not drink of the water in the river. And 7 days were filled after that the Lord had smitten the river. And the Lord spake unto, chapter 8, and the Lord spake unto Moses, go unto Pharaoh and say unto him, thus saith the Lord, let my people go, that they may serve me. And if they refuse to let them go, behold, I will smite all thy border with frogs. Okay? And rivers shall bring forth abundantly, which shall go up and come into thine house, and into thy bedchamber, and upon thy bed, and into the house of thy servants, and upon thy people, into thine ovens, and into thy kneading troughs. And the frogs shall come up both on thee, and upon thy people, and upon all thy servants. Okay, now what you could do is continue to read down, because it's the same algorithm, it's the same pattern. Okay, the Lord smites them with all of these plagues, and their magicians can't do nothing about it. Okay, you know, then the Lord eased up on Pharaoh, and he got harder again. His heart got hardened again. You know, in verse 15, he hardened his heart and hearkened not unto them, as the Lord said. But the Lord was making him do it. Okay, being stiff-hearted, man. You know, stiff-headed. All right, so that again the Lord's power could be shown. You know, so, and we know it ends with the firstborn being put to death. You know, and then pretty much you know, from there we fled out. But all these plagues and calamities the scriptures speak about are happening again, with added plagues and calamities. This is the book of 2nd Ezra chapter 15, verse 11, and it says, but I will bring them with a mighty hand and a stretched out arm, and smite Egypt with plagues as before, and will destroy all the land thereof. Okay, now this is not talking about geographical Egypt. Okay, here in Exodus chapter 7 is speaking, and 8 is speaking of geographical Egypt, Mount Zion. But in 2nd Ezra chapter 15 is speaking of the place which is spiritual Egypt and Sodom, which is the landmass of America. Okay, it's gonna get plagued, man, and the Lord is gonna smite it with plagues as before. Okay, so again, to understand what's gonna happen, we have to understand what was written and what happened in prior time in history, because guess what? The scripture says that there's no new thing under the sun, right? History repeats itself, man, you know, on different scales. And the general idea is, not in all cases, but the general idea is when history repeats itself, it's the same thing, but bigger, better, and badder. Okay, you know. So it's the same thing that's going to happen again, but on a bigger, grander, more terrible, and worse scale than any time before. Okay, you know, so the Lord will smite Egypt again, man. You know, um, okay, the Lord is going to visit this world which He made, man. This is the book of 2nd Ezra 9, verse 1. And it says, He answered me then and said, Measure out the time diligently in itself, and when thou seest part of the signs pass, which I have told thee before, which are the prophecies, then shalt thou understand that is the very same time wherein the highest will begin to visit the world which He made. And the Lord is going to visit the world. His visitation will be through calamity. His visitation will be through death. His visitation will be through, you know, what do they call it, man? Acts of God, as it were. You know, earthquakes, as it says, floods. We're seeing a lot of floods. They got floods in China. They got floods in India. You know, they got fires over there in Greece and places like that. You know, heat waves. This is the beginning of the visitation of the highest, man. Okay, and again I'll end it on verse 4 and 5, and it says, Then shalt thou well understand that the Most High spake of those things from the days that were before thee, even from the beginning. Luke chapter 1 verse 70, His holy prophets who were from the beginning. The Lord has always had His men on the earth from day one who prophesied of what would happen in the future. Okay, so when it said in 2nd Ezra 15 and 11, the Lord will smite Egypt with plagues as before, okay, we've been forewarned. And the men of the Lord are out there forewarning. So when it happens, nobody can say, we weren't told Egypt would be stricken again. We weren't told Egypt would be smitten again. We weren't told that there was imminent danger and destruction. Yes, you were, because it was in the word of the Lord, and the men of the Lord preached the prophecies, okay, and taught it unto you, man. You just refuse to listen. That's on you. Verse 5, For as like all that is made in the world hath a beginning and an end, and the end is manifest, even so the times also of the highest. Okay, this page just bugged out on me. It's not reading though, showing me the whole verse. Verse 6, I'll read that again. Even so the times also of the highest have plain beginnings in wonders and powerful works, and endings in effects and signs. So we're at the end because we're seeing these works, man. Okay, you know, so there we have it, man. So I'm gonna wrap it up here. According to biblical prophecy, the Lord Jehovah Hashem Yahushai will smite Egypt again. Lord willing, I'll be back with another show. But for now, shalom.